she injured the nerves coming out of her neck, called the brachial plexus, so her arm is paralyzed except for use of her hand, basically, and a little bit of extension of her elbow. So we're going to borrow some nerves that are still working that deal with wrist flexion, finger flexion, take those nerves and then plug them into the muscles, or the nerves rather, to the muscles that'll then help her flex her elbow and move her shoulder. It's called a nerve transfer. So one of the nerves we borrow, well, two of the nerves we borrow from the inner part of the arm. It's very intricate. We get under the microscope and we separate out all the little nerve branches from each other to figure out which ones control the muscles we want to borrow from and which ones we absolutely have to leave behind so that we don't damage the function to her hand that's existing. So one of them is from the median nerve, one of them is from the ulnar nerve, and then to get the shoulder back, we actually take part of the nerve that shrugs your shoulder. Really anybody with nerve paralysis or muscle paralysis, very common in motorcycle accidents and falls from height, some people that have tumors of their nerves or sharp lacerations that injure nerves, very common. This surgery has about 1.5 years before we have to get the nerve cells back to the muscles, otherwise the muscles don't work again. But that being said, people with this injury that still don't have full recovery have other options that are not nerve surgery that can either move muscles around or bring in muscles from other places to help them then move where they otherwise couldn't.
The basic part of it is that the tiger and I ended up sharing space, and that's not what we need to be doing. So we ended up sharing space through an accident, and I was injured. I don't know all of it specifically, but I know that I ended up with, I believe it was over 30 sites on my body that had staples. So I had some wounds to the back of my head, a little bit to the back of my neck, and to my back, and then across my left bicep. From what on that, I couldn't tell you if it was going over the log or if it was a claw or whatnot. I couldn't tell you that, but the back of the head and whatnot are teeth. I've heard it was just a little over 2 minutes. My team responded amazingly quickly, and he's a great cat, so he went in when they called. So, and they were able to shut the door behind him. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to the newbie, it can happen to the experienced person, it can happen to the person who's always safe, it can happen to the person who, you know, it doesn't matter. It can happen to anybody. It's what I know, and it's been rewarding, and the team here has been amazing, and I owe them to try and do whatever I can to help them out, because they sure helped me out. In a big way. So, you know, whatever I can do to kind of repay is not the right word, but to kind of work back toward that is important to me. It's been a great group of people, and they did exactly what we trained for, and you hope you never have to do, but, you know, they saved my life. So, and they saved his life. So, and, you know, it's just one of those things that, you know, you want to try and do what you can to get back to it and get back to your life and do what you can, no matter what the, you know, circumstances around it. I had worked with him since he arrived, which was in 2017, and he's a great cat. We'd done some really cool training with him. Our vet tech and I had done a lot of really cool husbandry, health training, and we were doing some reproductive health training that, you know, no one's doing actually with him. So that was really cool, and we really appreciated how chill he was and how accepting he was. So that's a lot of trust on his end and our end. Not that we do it, you know, directly in with him or anything like that, but you're still safe, we're still protected and whatnot. But that's still a weird thing to have happen to you if you're an animal and you can't understand what we're really wanting. And he did his thing, and so I felt like we had a good working relationship and really good teamwork with everybody, and trying to get that done, and we're making great headway. And he's just a really easy to work with guy. It's exhausting though, because you can't be human, because you have to be that safety extra human. You can't make a mistake. But when you do make a mistake, you know, it's not usually this outcome. So it's It's very, very interesting, and it's very challenging, which is great too, especially if you really enjoy puzzles and how to figure it out, you know, with an animal you can't really communicate with, you know, necessarily. It's just, I don't know, it's not just exciting because it's big. It's you know, it's just like any other animal, but it's definitely a challenge, and it's definitely and interesting and unusual, and you're fully aware all the time of what they can do. It's called protected contact, and there's always a barrier. So then, like, our elephants are the same way. You know, there's always a barrier between the keeper and the animal. The giraffes are really the same way. Really, any of our dangerous animals, bears, you name it. I don't know that there was necessarily any conscious thought about like what to do next, but you know, I feel like I stayed calm. Stayed calm. I mean, like what I actually did and what I think I actually did are might be two different things, but I haven't really been interested to know my thoughts versus what people saw. But like I felt like I just kind of stayed calm because I mean, I'm gonna say I know that if you struggle, that's worse, but I don't know in that moment if I knew that or if I just didn't do it. I could hear their voices when they got there, and I knew everyone who was doing what they were doing, and so once they arrived, you know, it was a lot easier to stay calm because you know that they know what they're doing, and they were doing everything they could. I knew when he let go, and I knew when he walked away to go inside, and I knew when the members of the gun team arrived. And I knew when the other staff had arrived first, you know, to try and get him inside. So all of those things just kind of was just one more thing that was like, oh, okay, either way, you know, I'm going to be okay. And I should remember some of the sounds that I could hear, but I don't really remember much in the way of, oh my God, that really hurts, you know, kind of pain. After everything and while I was healing, you know, initially in the hospital the first few weeks, that was really uncomfortable. But that's when I really was feeling painful. And everything's out. Everything came out pretty quickly, I think. There were a few left in the upper part of my arm for a month, I think, roughly. But then those came out, and once those were out, everything else came out not long after I'd got to the rehab hospital, actually. There's not really a lot of pain, it's just discomfort, or I say discomfort, it's achy. Sometimes the back part of the shoulder blade gets a little achy, and it just feels more like tightness and like it really wants to reach up and do a nice big stretch, I just can't. You know, it's just kind of that achy, tight, you know, I really want to do it kind of feeling. Hopefully I'll know some more on the appointment, but he talked about functional movement, and so I'm assuming that that's different for everybody though. So what that actually means for me, I'm going to assume has a lot to do with how well I heal and how well I bust my rear at physical therapy. Just kind of the up, and I really want to be able to, you know, like hold the bowl to scrape the batter out, you know, and I just can't quite get to that. And you know, I don't necessarily want to like rock climb, but I would really like to, you know, hug my kiddo with two hands and, you know, without having to like drag it around. And I would really like to, you know, have it be a little easier to bake, you know, and get a pan out of the oven with two hands, or you know, not have to use the right hand for absolutely everything, and tie my shoe would be really nice actually too. It's a whole contraption with the one on the right is pretty easy, but it's the one on the left that gets harder because I can't bring the arm in to get to the foot. So if I'm bent over, it's just kind of dangling there, and I have to kind of like do a whole body motion, or I have to like use the sling and have it be kind of more up on my bicep to kind of support and bring the hand over, and then I can do it. But it's a whole situation that I was like, huh. So tying shoes is real interesting. Well, the left shoe. At PT, they're telling me that when they stretch me out and I try and pull my arm down, they can feel me, and I can pull my arm, down. And if I'm doing my pulley stretches and it's out, I can pull this arm down, but I can't go up and I can't do this, like out and back. And I also can't turn it all the way over this way. It stopped about here. So I can't quite get it the rest of the way over there. Everything happened and I was just like, you know what, well, I can't, because I'm not going to get any better. I can't afford to not get better. So, whatever I need to do to get better is what I need to do to get better. And we're going to see what that is. And whatever that needs to happen, like I don't really want to have surgery because I am a big wimp. And I know it's going to hurt and I'm not a big fan. But if it's going to let me do some of those things, then let's give it a shot. And I'll bust my rear at PT and do whatever I need to do. But right now it's just kind of, more of a what can I really get back to, and I need to not think about, so that's what I've been battling this week, is not thinking about what dysfunctional movement really mean, but what can I make it mean. So that's what I'm trying to do. We'll see how successful I am. I don't know. With thinking that way. I think the only other thing he and I talked about the other day when he called was just, I was telling some of the things that I could do at PT, and he talked about how that just might mean that he may not need to do as many transfers, which is great too, and so, but that's just kind of where we've been at so far. If it can make somebody else who's had a similar something happen, either in the zoo world or not, or facilities, hearing about, because people don't live through that, so hearing about the person's perspective on whether that's safety or whether that's how you handle yourself or training for whatever, or if any keepers who'd had a similar experience or anybody else that had a similar experience wanted to talk or had questions, like I'm happy to do that, because if it's going to help somebody else, then I want to do that. Probably not.
Do you have any photos of just, so I'm trying to show kind of the before and after, because we'll do a follow-up with you here after you've done your full healing, after Endress's surgery. Do you have anything that I could see post-surgery, even the, you can see some...
I couldn't tell you if this was a claw or if this was just going over the log when he had me. So I really couldn't tell you on that one. I just know that was the one that took the longest to heal. Sorry, this doesn't stay up nearly as well as it did when I still had a lot of muscle up there. So this took the longest to heal. This is what had the staples in the longest. The surgeon had to debride, remove the, dead skin about a month later, but then it healed up actually really nicely, and it's kind of gotten even nicer actually, and the knees have all disappeared almost, and then like I said, I've got these two, and then there's one on the inside of my elbow that you can't really see very well, but so